Hey guys, this is the Ekron Writer here, welcoming you to the 4th book in the series of my Mortal Kombat Chronology, which is based on Mortal Kombat Deception, Mortal Kombat Return of the Dragon King. Originally, I had the working title known as Mortal Kombat Trojan Dragon, and I actually made an online poll, and a lot of the people said nay on that one. So I had to change the title, and this is the result that we have now. So I hope I did a better job with the title. I just don't want to spoil much. But yeah, just like Deception, this is a continuation, a short continuation of Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, or my 3rd book in the series, Mortal Kombat Vengeance. And surprisingly, it actually took half the amount as the last fanfic. Because the last fanfic took like almost 4 months. Because I had to get it done before the holidays. But this is like, I guess over 2 months. Not really 3. But almost more than 2. So, just like Deception, it's going to feature the Conquest mode and all that. So, it takes place moments after the combatants won over the Deadly Alliance, and yet they succeeded in reviving Onaga and his undead army. So, let's get this thing going. Alright, Mortal Kombat, The Return of the Dragon King. Welcome to my 4th Mortal Kombat epic. Just like the last one I did for Deadly Alliance, Mortal Kombat Vengeance, Deception is completely new to me, especially as far as Conquest goes. Perhaps it'll take another 4 months like the last one, which it didn't. It's like half. As usual, it shall start with a brief prologue, with just a little recap of the cliffhanger of the last epic. Prologue. At the palace ruins erected by enslaved villagers of Sundo, atop of an Outworld plateau, Fujin and Raiden were standing idly. It was such a brutal, tumultuous fight against the evil duo known as the Deadly Alliance, consisting of Quan Chi and Shang Tsung. According to the Godly Brothers, it had been 500 years since they'd formed the Unholy Alliance, which was the same type of threat in the Great Kung Lao's time. Thankfully, his promising descendant and Nightwolf were successful thwarting them on their mission to enslave Liu Kang's soul while resurrect the Dragon King and his undead army. The champions and their comrades were just escorted as they returned to Earthrealm, some to Edenia, via another ship that they powered up. The pair took in a peaceful respite, until they heard a weak chuckle. Following the deep voice in the opaque chamber, they soon noticed it belonged to the pale roaming sorcerer Quan Chi, still alive and barely hanging by a thread with his broken, bleeding neck. They went over to him, wearing irritated looks. "I thought we slain him," said Fujin. "Nope, they didn't." "Not quite, Blender of Gods." The Wind God was about to smite him until Raiden held him back. "What is it that you know of Onaga, Quan Chi?" "You're too late, lowly gods. Onaga will soon be reborn. We have offered many souls to the Dragon King and his loyal army. Now his rebirth is nearly complete. It is only a matter of time." Brothers gazed onto the inactive, mummified remains. Fujin objected until Raiden forced him to observe their eyes glowing in an eerie green hue. The sight startled Raiden, but Fujin was more boastful. "We can smite them easily." "You have no power here. The undead slaves of Onaga are unbeatable, and with the souls locked in each of the many sarcophaguses, they can easily overwhelm you, as they shall await their master's second awakening. It won't be a cakewalk once the Dragon King has risen. All realms shall bow down to Onaga's insatiable might." Irritated, Fujin declared, "Shut up!" He unleashed his spear of arrow energy onto the dying foe, yet Raiden was still fixated onto the army's abrupt stir. Through flashes of intense radical lightning, both Raiden and Fujin were drawn away from Quan Chi's lifeless vessel as they beheld a horned king which seemed to be 9 feet tall. They were able to make out his piercing orange eyes glaring down onto them, and the shiny spikes protruding from his 3-foot wingspan as he slowly walked from some other chamber. Oh boy. He then let out a roar which would belong to the devil himself as he elongated his arms and rose his head. Their nightmare has come into fruition. The second coming of the Dragon King Onaga, the mighty and omnipotent ruler of Outworld, exceeding Shao Kahn, has been resurrected. Raiden just stood in shock as if from his own electricity, with his mouth agape. It can't be! Reanimated followers rose from their bows and kowtows, fixating onto the intruders. Fujin noticed their foreign incantation, perhaps worshipping their master being reborn, and he conjured up an F3 tornado. Disgusted by the deadly legion, he swept them up seamlessly as they were being tossed in the volatility, then aimed toward their own lord. The impacts irritated the intimidating serpent, who unleashed his fiery fury onto the brother gods, who dodged his stream of methane and other lethal chemicals that belonged to a flaming cocktail. Raiden and Fujin fired up and released their lethal volleys of lightning and wind, in which it only held the invincible Dragon King back. He continued his march as if it was nothing, before the gods tried again, more furious this time. What they didn't notice were several of their disciples running towards them and beholding the horrifying display of the mountainous dragon. Upon his right shoulder, he received a chip from a sharp, shiny edge of a tossed hat. The streams of elements halted as they faced the new assailant, as did Onaga, who received the same hat as it returned like a boomerang. Kung Lao! He never expected to see his warriors amongst this peril. Nevertheless, the courageous Oriental was ready for battle as he teleported closer to the beast. The other combatants within the group, consisting of Sonya, Jax, Johnny, Katana, and Nightwolf, were observing the battle. They seemed very anxious on assisting their hapless mentors, especially knowing the fact they seemed powerless in Outworld. Master Raiden! We took the rip back to Outworld from my portal device! Sonya shouted. Raiden and Fujin were flabbergasted. They were willing to risk their lives in an effort which seemed futile. Stay back, Sonya! No! Lao took out on the offensive and he dashed toward him with his hat drawn. He charged and sliced Onaga's abdomen, then performed his lethal whirlwind kick before he was caught in his crushing grip that can rival an anaconda's. Picked up the former monk as if he was nothing but a doll, before he used his right claw to pry apart a leg. Lao was heard grimacing, and a fiery serpent made of orange flames burst out of its retainer. The dragon took the form of the towering animality as it launched on the other dragon's head. However, Onaga remained completely unfazed as it tossed Lao away and attempted to crush the S-shaped essence. It reared back and breathed fire onto his face, but it was just a sheer blinding display when Onaga clutched its head sideways. Lao slowly stood up, despite his excruciating legs, as he raised an arm to summon the pyromaniac back into the golden dragon head. The last thing he wanted was to let his Shaolin brother's soul be decimated, then enthralled by the Dragon King. Each combatant then dove in and used their own formidable prowess, much to Raiden's astonishment. Everyone was like annoying fleas as Onaga seamlessly mopped the floor with them. Lao, Raiden, and Fujin watched in terror as their friends fell. Liu Kang, get inside me! He ordered, despite the lethal pain coursing through him. Raiden wouldn't allow it as he made an aerial dive into Onaga's gut before raising a hand as sparks flew. Stand down, Kung Lao! The electrocution worsened the former monk. He used a hand to make him rise, but only partially as his head swam. He hardly saw his mentor hold back the abominable reptile, and he could hardly make out Fujin begging him to stop. Raiden! He hardly had the strength to cry for him. Raiden still refused to surrender or run. Then his still crippled body crouched as he growled in a foreign language. Recognizing the spell, the nimbler Fujin knew he was performing the unthinkable. His eyes widened, almost churning his playset as them, then froze as he embraced the horror. Raiden's own body was lighting up like a dazzling sky during a firework finale, as bolts of lightning went into him. The Wind God knew what he had to do. His scream for his dear brother was hardly audible before a ginormous white explosion decimated the interior of the palace. The outer structure collapsed upon the impact, burying everyone and everything caught in the blast. Moments later, the smoke still remained, and despite the rubble enveloping the floor, Onaga rose up with barely a scratch. The unchallenged abomination made his body snap, as intact as ever. It shook off the soot as if it was just a mere firecracker that harmed him. He was the only living specimen left as the newer supreme ruler of the accursed realm. As soon as he picked up a shiny golden amulet with the jade epicenter, Onaga let out an ear-piercing roar, declaring his reign would soon commence. Well, since there was no music listings, I wish I found the intro, but I had to improvise with these. The working title was named Trojan Dragon based on Onaga's inception. However, it was frowned upon by voters on the Twitter poll I made. Instead of having a subjective title that had changed its name depending on the language, i.e. France, using mystification, since deception means disappointment over there, I decided to keep the title as basic as possible, so Return of the Dragon King sufficed. So the prologue's nice and short like it should be, but the question remains, who survived and who hasn't within Raiden's intense blast? Find out later. Until then, this is the Ekron Writer signing out, and I'd rather do it in 2 separate parts to make matters easier. So a little cliffhanger there. I'll see you guys later.